Hey, g'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow, and in today's video we are going to do a step-by-step guide on how to replace your drum brake shoes. Now we're going to be doing this on our D-MAX like you've seen on the channel, but this is pretty much exactly the same process for any vehicle that has rear drum brakes. So without further ado, let's get started. Now as far as what you're going to need to do the job, you're only going to need a couple of things. We need some new brake shoes, of course, so just make sure you get the right type for your particular type of vehicle. Any auto store will have those. Recommend getting some brake cleaner, come in a can, nice and easy. You need something to get your wheels off, a couple of bits of cloth, and some pliers will do the job. If you do have one of these, or you can see one of these at your auto store, they're dead cheap. They are really helpful as well for getting the pesky springs back on, so grab some of those if you don't have them already. And then finally we need some chocks and a jack to get these guys up in the air. So step number one is to get ready to get that wheel off. So you want to grab your chocks, get them under the front tire, because we are going to have to release the handbrake, so you want everything nice and secure and stable. And then, as the Mighty Car Mods boys would say, you need to jack up your car. And then step two is to pull off your wheel, get that guy underneath your chassis rail for a little bit of extra protection, and then grab a jack stand there, whack that under the chassis rail. But best bet is just to keep it up on the jack as well. It's just a little bit extra safety, never goes astray. All right, so on to step three. We are wheelless here. Got all of this awesome gross looking stuff. We're going to clean that up, that is for sure. The next step though is to have a look for this guy here. So little sort of safety screw, I guess, to last line of defense. So we want to undo that one. Now if this hasn't come apart for some time, this car's only got about 40,000 Ks, so it's not the end of the world. You should be able to just push in pretty hard there and twist. If it's giving you grief though, give it a whack of some degreaser or some brake cleaner. A sharp tap on the end of your screwdriver there and it will come straight out. Right, once your little screw is out, the next step is to take the actual drum off. Now, if you haven't been driving around on this for forever and it hasn't done too many Ks, you should be right to pull this off. If it is tough though, you may have to grab yourself a small mallet, one of these little guys, or a hammer, and just give it some pretty sharp blows at the back here, all the way around. Just give it some solid whacks and eventually this guy will come off. Now, once you're at this point, you can ogle at just how disgusting all of this looks. Now, this is post-Cape trip for this particular vehicle, so it is probably looking a little bit worse for wear. The more off-road and what have you that you go, the worse this is going to look. So we are going to give that a pretty solid clean. If we have a look in here, check that out. There is almost metal going on there, especially on the leading shoe. The back one isn't much better, and particularly when we compare it to our replacements, which look a little bit like this. You can see just how much more meat is living on the replacements as opposed to these guys. So they are well and truly ready to go. From here, we need to disassemble all of this, but before you do, I highly recommend, well, I mean, you've got this video to watch, but the other part is I highly recommend grabbing your phone, taking some happy snaps of where all the springs go. Speaking of springs, there are a few on here. You have one hidden underneath here. So there's that guy there. Another one, the main one that sits across the top here, just like that. This guy here that holds your adjustment little cog in play there. And then there is your handbrake spring here as well. This guy doesn't have to come off. This whole section comes off in one piece, so we can leave that guy alone. But just take a bunch of photos before you start stripping this down to make sure that when you go to put it back together, if you don't have this video handy, you know exactly where everything goes. So our next step here is to disassemble all of this and give it a really good clean. We can get our drum and give this a really good clean. If you do have any big grooves here, if you can get your fingernail and sort of run it down the side here and your fingernail sticking, you probably are going to have to replace these guys, or at the very least get them machined. We're a-okay here. Like I said, the vehicle hasn't done all too many Ks. We're okay to reuse those. We do want to give it a massive clean though. That's where getting yourself a can or two of brake cleaner and giving everything an absolute once over is the way to go. At this part here, unless you want to make an absolute mess, I definitely recommend grabbing yourself a oil pan or something like that, a big bucket. Sit that underneath, because as you spray all of this, it is going to drip down and make an absolute mess. So definitely recommend, top tip, get yourself an oil drain pan and then go to town with some brake cleaner. Put half a can on this, mainly so that one, you can make a start on getting everything clean, but this brake dust stuff, you really don't want to be breathing that in. It's not good for you. So benefit of giving everything a hose down first is you're getting all of that brake dust under control, and then makes it easier when you go to pull it apart. Now once you've got everything ready to go here, you've given it a solid spray to get rid of all of that dust. dust and give it a start of a clean up anyway. The next bit is to start removing everything. Now, there's a few different options like we looked at there before. You can get these specialist brake shoe removal tools. They've got all sorts of little hooks and little twists and bits and bobs on them. Needle nose pliers work just as well, arguably better. Even the old school, just straight out pliers are going to do a great job at getting these guys off. So that's our next step to start disassembly. Now, some people prefer taking all your springs off first. I like grabbing these guys. These are your shoe retainers. Now, you're going to have one shoe that has a little nub on it that we can use again, and then the other one is built in. So if you have a look at our brand new guys, you can see this guy has a little nubby bit, this guy doesn't. So one is left and one is right. You'll see that when you pull them off. You just need to match which ones to go back on in the same spot. You do get little retainer clip replacements in your kit. I've got a Bendix kit and it comes with some nice new ones, so you don't have to stress too much about these. I like pulling these off first because once you get those, you can pretty well pull most of it off and the springs kind of just fall out and it's a lot easier to do. So that's our next step, is to pull off everything here. How these guys work, if you get some flat square jaw pliers, you want to kind of push in and twist at the same time, and there you go, one-handed even. And it'll pop off just like that. And here we go, here is our bare backing plate. Just be careful with your piston here not to push too far either way so you lose any fluid or don't lose any fluid. Make sure you retain our little studs here. Like I said, if they're worn, that little hammerhead on the front there may want to fall out the back, so don't lose those guys. We need to reuse them. This guy here, from here, is, we need to recycle a couple of parts. So keep all your springs in the wash bin so we can give them a good clean. Now on this side, we do need to remove this shiny yellowy silver bracket off our brake shoe altogether. So you can see that little horseshoe, just this little horseshoe guy here, and then there's a washer that sits underneath that. Now the easiest way to get that guy off is a couple of flathead screwdrivers, one on either leg there, and just ping him off. Make sure it doesn't go pinging off into the abyss somewhere, never to be found again. We need to reuse that. And then don't forget our little washer that sits on the top. Don't disconnect this part. This is where your handbrake cable is connected. Leave all that as it is. We're going to put this guy on our new shoe. And then finally, on our second one here, we need to pull our little adjuster bracket here as well. And if we look closely, hopefully I can get it on the old camera here, there is a little circlip in there. So same story. Just be patient with either your needle nose pliers or a little Phillips head. Work that guy loose, and then you can pull this guy off and reinstall it to our new shoe. Once both of those are out, we want to give everything a really good clean. So grab yourself a little brush, something like this. Stole from our little detailing bucket. We can go to town. Lots of brake cleaner. Just give everything a massive clean while you're in here so it's all spick and span. And then once I've done all of that, I'll come back to you in a couple of seconds, show you what all that looks like and how we can start reassembly. And here we go. We are all nice and clean. I've given it a bit of a lick of paint here in the middle because that's the bit you see through the mag there on the tyre. But other than that, copious amounts of degreaser and then brake clean to get all the degreaser off and the final lot. And there we go. Make sure your boots stay on for your brake cylinder here at the top, and then from here it is reassembly time. Now I'm going to step by step this so that you can kind of follow along for these dastardly springs. This is where you want to bust out your phone from that photo you took earlier so you can just put it all back together the way you took it apart. Now this is the orientation that your new shoes need to go in for the right hand side here, the opposite for the other side. Look, check out these. Look how clean all of the bits and bobs are. They are the same ones. I can probably find, yeah, there you go. Still a little bit of schmutz there, but they come up brand new when you give them a good clean with a little brush, that kind of thing. So they're ready to go. The first thing you want to do is you want to get your little stubby bit that we've recycled from the old one. We want to get our little washer here, and then also our little horseshoe bit, and then reassemble into our new section. Where we want to put that is up the top here. So we want to push it through from one side underneath. We then want to get our bracket here that is for our handbrake. That ultimately sits up there like that and sits in this little stub. So the first bit is to get that guy ready and then attach it to here so it's ready to go back on. So it should look a little bit like that when it is all on, nice and horseshoed back together. You can use your needle nose and just sort of squish it together there if it's a little bit loose, but it should be reasonably tight. Once it is, it should sit in there a little bit like that. So the top section will sit in your cylinder at the top, and then the bottom will go in the bottom section there a little bit like that. So top goes like that, bottom goes like that. From here, we can grab our second piece and start assembling our little hold-in brackets. And to do that part, dead simple, you just want to poke it through our hole here. We want to grab our new one there, line him up just a little bit like that, and hold it into place with your thumb, and then it's just a matter of lining that up. Get your pliers there again. You want to push, grab it, and then twist all in the same sort of motion. So you want to kind of squish it flat. Once you get a grip on it, you can just twist at the same time like that, and it will lock it into place. So from there, we need to do the exact same for the other shoe. Get that guy up and into position so that we can start buttoning up the rest of the springs. So it should look a little bit like that once they're all in. The bottom section here should sit underneath our little crossbar here, so it pushes out, and then same on the top, so you can just kind of jiggle them around till they're in spot. The next thing is we want to get this little guy. He sits underneath there, so you can see there's a little hole just there and another one there. So we want to join our spring there and have it sit behind our little shoe here. So that's our next one. And once that one is in, our next one is to get our bracket up the top here. So that is this guy here and our teeny tiny little circlip here. You may need to squish this guy back together a little bit, but it will sit in there just a little bit like that. Circlip over the top, and then that one is all done. And then once this guy is in, the next step is to get this one. This needs to, you can come apart, so you've got your little bit in here. You are gonna have to wind that all the way in because we've got some nice new shoes now. So that just twists like that. So you can wind him all the way in, give yourself plenty of space, leave the spring on there. It should go in that orientation and will sit in there. So recommend though getting your hook at the back here around to this guy here first, around the back, and then you can use your pliers here at the front to latch onto that guy there. Before you go putting it in though, easiest thing is to get that little bit here that sits on the end there, and then we'll lock down into position here on our new shoe. So that's our next bit, exactly the same as your photo. Use your pliers and wrangle that guy into place. And there we go, all in. A little bit of a tricky one, this one. If you get stuck, just make sure this guy is in front of your little piece here. Same as the photo you took. If you get stuck, get a flathead screwdriver and push down on this, and that will push it that way, allowing you to get that guy in. So just take your time. Once that is in, you should only have one spring left, and that guy needs to sit one in there, and the other one will go down into this hole here. So we just need to get that guy into place, a little bit like that, all done, and there you go. You are all sorted. So from here, just double check everything, make sure everything is all nice and in position. From there, you want to put the actual drum back on. Just make sure you give it a nice clean so the inside is nice and sweet. That should slide back on. Just make sure that the screw hole, so this bit here, lines up with where our screw hole here is as well. So that is about plumb, actually. That's about spot on. So we want to put that guy back on, and then you can screw that one back into position as well. And there we go, all back on. Now from here, I'm going to give that a bit of a lick of paint so it's all nice and clean, ready to go again. From here, we just need to adjust it. So the easiest way to do that is from the back. Get yourself a little stubby flathead screwdriver. Something a little bit like this guy, nice and short. So what we want to do is get around behind the disc itself and pull our little dust cap off. And that is this guy right here. So that's a little dust boot. You can pull it off just like that. It is horrifying the amount of red dirt that's still under here from the Cape trip. And then if you're feeling there, that's what our little adjustment nut was that we were looking at earlier. So you could see that. And then with the flathead, what you want to do is you should be able to feel it in there. And once you can locate it, you just want to spin it until you can start to hear it just starting to catch, just starting to see. I don't know if you guys can hear that. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for it to just start making a bit of a noise, just starting to catch on the drum itself. Get that tire on into position, to come under, and you may need to give it just the slightest other nick. Once it starts making some noise, back it off just the slightest amount, and then you're pretty well good to go. Tiny little bit of noise is okay, because as you start driving around, that'll go away really quick, and then your handbrake will work perfect, and these guys will be nice and adjusted. From there though, we are good to go. We can get the jack out of the way, get it back down on the ground. Don't forget to use your torque wrench to get everything up to spec. For the D-MAX, I like between 110, 120, somewhere around there is the sweet spot. But other than that, you are good to go. Give your handbrake a test, make sure everything is working a-okay, and then take it for a road trip. If you are finding you probably still need a little bit more adjustment in the handbrake, you know how to do it now. You can get underneath, pop that dust boot off, get your little flathead stubby screwdriver, and you give that guy a little bit of a touch up so that you get a little bit more grab on the drum. But that's it for this one, guys. I hope you found that helpful and gave you the confidence to give this one a go yourself. A couple of hours in the afternoon and you're good to go. It is about to absolutely bucket down here, so I'm going to wrap this guy up. Thanks very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel as yet, make sure you do. Hopefully you got something out of this. If you did, share it with your mates. Other than that, guys, as always, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.